Welcome, everyone, to Money Sense with Sheandra, your weekly financial coaching session. I'm Sheandra Michelle Newton, the executive producer and host of this series. On today's episode, we're addressing an elephant in the room, a poverty mindset. I created Money Sense with Sheandra to make financial education more accessible. But what I realize is that no amount of financial education will get us on the path to financial success if we have a poverty mindset. I don't want to offend anyone, but the reality is that many of us can't get ahead because of negative thought and behavior patterns that are holding us hostage. Joining me in today's episode is Coach Ricardo Miller. Coach Ricardo was born and raised in Nassau, Bahamas. Growing up, he faced many obstacles coming from humble beginnings that many would consider poverty. Today, Coach Ricardo is a certified life coach, motivational speaker, pastor, and entrepreneur. He moved to the U.S. over 20 years ago and now lives in Red Oak, Texas, where he was recently elected city councilman. Through his life management company, Effective Living LLC, Coach Ricardo provides one-on-one life coaching to help people maximize their potential and live a life they don't need to take a vacation from. Today in episode 3, Coach Ricardo will guide us in confronting and conquering a poverty mindset. So how can someone identify that, hey, I have a poverty mindset? The reason why I may not be where I desire to be is because of my mindset. Talk to me about those sort of traits.
I think the first thing I would say that really stands out is the justification for staying where they are, to being okay. Being okay catching the bus, being okay to not ever purchasing a car, being okay with just getting by, and then starting to claim that's just the way it is, and then trying to make your way that's the way. In other words, the way you eat is not good, but what can I say? You know what I make? I don't make a lot of money. So, where I live, what can I say? It's where I live. You can't do much with where I live or where I work. And so you start justifying. And I think that's the basis of being in a bad place when it comes to a poverty mindset. For somebody who's watching us today, I would say you got to know the person who's living in a very healthy state of mind when it comes to life and prosperity and wealth. They're no better than you. They just understood or acquired a certain level of understanding in regards to life that you have not. And so a lot of times you could see it. You could find that one person has a poverty mindset and the other person has a wealth mindset, and both came from the same home. One person decided to stay through that same street and the other person decided to move on the complete opposite side of town. And the person who has the poverty mindset will scrutinize all of the dynamics of the person who's living in what we call a prosperity mindset or a wealthy place mindset. They will start scrutinizing, yeah, I can't imagine living up, oh my God, it's too quiet. Why nobody sits on the front porch? Why no kids playing in the street? This area, yeah, you were lucky. They start to claim that person is lucky when if you move in a little bit closer, it's not luck. And so that justification spirit keeps so many people where they are, because now here's the deal. No one can help you when you believe where you are is where you belong.
Mm-hmm. But there's a reality here. And this leads me to my second question about the difference between being broke and having and being poor. And so there are some people who will say, this is my circumstance. This is I can't help the fact that I have to catch the bus. I cannot afford a car right now. Talk speak on that.
Keyword right now. Right now. and you can't afford a car right now. And I'll say that's true. And I would say, yes, you may have to go to the pump and get water right now. That's true. Yes, you may be living in an overcrowded space right now. That's true. But if you were to get a proper understanding on how life works, you can move yourself from that place to ensure that in 3 months, 6 months, or a year, you could get a car. Let me tell you something, what I've discovered, especially more specific for those of us who live in the Bahamas, okay? I was riding a bike. I was heading to my job that was a construction job through Mini Street, jumping on the back of the truck and priding myself for having a job to go do maintenance out Life Key. Now, here's the deal. Going out Life Key, I got a chance to see people living on a whole nother level. But I would come back on the back of that truck and I would have a headset listening to teachings by the late Dr. Miles Monroe and Zig Ziglar and Les Brown, saying one day, I want to be somebody. But here's the deal. I was going back home, staying in a room that I was sharing with 3 other siblings as a young adult. I was I think I was maybe 18, 19, around that age. Here's what happened. I joined an ASU. I joined an ASU with a minimum income. And that ASU, I thought, you know what, man, when I get this ASU, oh man, this is my chance because this is going to be a lump sum of money. Well, when I got that ASU, my Bishop Dean Wells said to me, he said, son, what are you going to do with that money when you get that ASU? I said, man, I'm going to Miami. I ain't never been on vacation before. I mean, Bishop, come on, man, you only live once. I need 19. What you talking about when you're 19? Talking about you only live once. But a poverty mindset. I'm going to Miami. You know what he said to me? He says, if I was you, that $2,500 you're getting, I would. He opened a newspaper and he says, "There's this company coming called Cable Bahamas. It's coming." He said, "I would take that $2,500 on your paycheck for the next month and put it all in the cable thing." He said, "That's going to take off." And I think if my memory served me correctly, the stocks was the lowest. It was probably maybe like $1 a stock or something like that. And he said, "I would put it all in there." And I did not. I went to Miami. Hello. Okay. A poverty mindset. Now here's the deal. Everyone who I since met later on, joining Toastmasters and developing myself, everyone that I know who have stocks in Cable Bahamas are considered wealthy behemoths.
Mm.
And it could have been the cycle breaker for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so the person who says, you don't understand my predicament, and I know the Bahamas, we have moments where that's not always our predicament. That's my point. My point is that ASU draw comes. That bonus, that double salary comes where you can make a decision that is more healthy and permanent for financial prosperity for your family than you go into the routine of, well, you know, when they give me this bonus, or you know, when they give me this ASU, I'm going on a cruise, or you know what I'm saying? Or girl, I'm going to get my nails done and my hair done and I'm going to buy me a couple outfits because I work too hard. Watch this. I'm going to treat myself. You can't afford to treat yourself when your complaint is you don't have what you should have for the long haul that's healthy.
Wow. And that really, what you just shared it really shows how a poverty mindset really impacts the way you manage your finances.
Yeah.
And something that I watch, and by the way, everybody, so Coach Ricardo has a YouTube channel where every morning, I think you go on there and you stream, and he has these different teachings, and so I really encourage you to check it out. But one of the things that I came across that you talked about how people who you have people who work hard.
Yeah.
They work
Mhm.
hard,
Yeah.
but they just can't seem to, get by.
Yeah.
And so speak a little to that, because what you were sharing just now really alludes to that yes, you can be every day, going to work, putting in all the hours, but at the end of the day, you just still can't, get to where it is that you're trying to get to. Talk about how a poverty mindset could be the reason why?
I like that question. Let me say this. One of the things that I learned late, but I had to learn it, and that was strategic or being intentional. And so for the longest, I actually thought too that the hardest workers would be the ones who would what they call eventually make it. And then people, oh, he's a hardworking young man. Oh, she is a hardworking young woman. But the hardest working people in the world are some of the poorest people in the world because hard work does not secure your future by itself financially. And so you have to learn that it's about being intentional. That's going into understanding, yes, I may be getting an A suit for $2,000. Yes, I may not have a car. But if I was to put that $2,000 in a stock like that of back then, the Cable Bahamas, watch this, a couple of years later, he came back to me again and said to me, hey, guess what's coming? And you should invest in it. And at that time, I had about $5,000 coming to me. And he says, you see that? He said, they're about to build a second bridge. He said, they got bonds. You should put your money in that. He says, that right there, every car that goes over there, they're going to have to pay. He says, guess what I did with that? That was the one when I went and bought me that little Nissan Sentra car.
Poverty mindset.
Poverty mindset. I was hard work, but at that time I was doing two jobs. I was working doing the construction, I was doing security at night, and I was trying to launch my ministry. And so I was like, man, listen, how does it look for me to be pulling up to Toastmasters, riding my bicycle? But it would have been more impressive to be riding my bicycle and knowing that I just put some money in the bridge bonds or in the cable company coming in. And that would have strategically been a better play for me. And so when I say strategic actions, it's knowing that this won't last forever. But most people with a poverty mindset, they're reactive and they're presently engaged. In other words, you know what? I'm hungry now. Let me go to the lunch lady and put it on my bill rather than go ahead on Friday and then buy lunch for next week and prep so you don't have to pay the lunch lady on the construction. Because that's where I was. And then we try to duck the lunch lady when she comes to pick up her money on Friday, right? And so we're wondering why we can't get ahead. It's because of the poor decisions that's in the immediate. The immediate behavior keeps people poor almost more than anything else. Well, you notice the holiday weekend, I got to look fresh. Well, you know, everybody's traveling this summer, I got to travel. Well, you know, my mother coming to town from the island and I got to do something with this space so I can borrow some money to go get some furniture to make this place look like something so she could be impressed. When the truth is, you ain't there yet and you need to play the long game.
What does it mean to play the long game when pursuing the lifestyle we desire? Well, what I learned from Coach Ricardo is playing the long game means that we're focused on changing our financial position, not just the circumstances that our financial position has put us in. A poverty mindset will cause us to make financial decisions that allow us to look and feel good today, but have no bearing on how we look and feel tomorrow. By playing the long game, we're making strategic decisions that may require us to sacrifice our immediate desires so that we can secure our financial future. Does a poverty mindset have an income requirement? Meaning, is it just for people making under a certain income? Because it sounds like this is across the board for all income levels. Talk about
Yeah,
that.
it's interesting you said that. I have a friend. He makes $500,000 a year. Good friend of mine, and he was actually it's my first coaching client. First coaching client, and he often tell me, Miller, I'm here where I am financially because of you. You've advised me, and I've literally climbed the scale to become who I am today. 500,000. And when he flew into Dallas a few different times, he called me. Hey Miller, how you doing, man? Man, thank you for everything. Hey, I was wondering if I could borrow a quick $1,000 from you until I get back home. I said, pardon me? He said, man, listen, this conference I'm speaking at, it maxed out my credit card, and here's the deal. he doesn't own a house. He's leasing a big property on a lake. He's leasing his cars, but he's flying for his class, and he has a poverty mindset. If you go in his home, you'll realize he has a poverty mindset. He's just making a lot of money. But then at the same time, I know people who have a poverty mindset who is making the bare minimum, and they're trying to wear Louis Vuitton belts, and and they're like, hey, they're trying to buy what they can't afford, and they're even trying to fake it with the dynamics of looking like it before they even have it, which sets them up to, as soon as they get it, they switch out the fake for the real, only to try to keep up with a look. That's all based in a poverty mindset. So it's not so much about how much money you make. A lot of times you find people living in bigger homes and they're barely making it. I have a friend the other day. He said, "My God, the air conditioning went on the second floor," and he said, "I don't think I'm gonna be able to get that fixed this year." So why would you live in a home where you can't get the air conditioning fixed? It's because you could be living in a home that you really can't afford if you had someone look at your finances. Somebody came and said to me, they said, "Oh, I thought you would be living behind a gate." I said, "Why?" He said that. "Oh, because of your national status or your city position." Well, have I asked anybody for anything? Can we not pay? We pay all of our bills on time and we fix everything accordingly. And it's not because we're rich, but we're managing responsibly at this level. So the question uh, really leads to people not so much wanting more, but learning how to live financially responsible at whatever they are, wherever they are.
Yeah, financial responsibility. What would you say causes a poverty mindset? What causes it?
What causes a poverty mindset? I would say upbringing. Upbringing causes a poverty mindset. I think past financial struggles causes a poverty mindset. Society influences causes a poverty mindset. Lack of financial education causes a poverty mindset. All of those things contribute to it. A few that really hits us really hard home. Let's talk about this whole cultural practice that we say that's Bahamian. Like it took me a while. It took me a while. For those of you that are listening, it took me a while to realize I didn't have to have a new outfit for a holiday. Because when I came here, I thought, oh my God, it's the 4th of July weekend. I got to get me something new to wear. And then there are people, don't get me wrong, man, I'll order my Bahamian Independence t-shirt too, but some people can't afford to go and buy the top tier. And so listen, go ahead. And I would nowadays I buy me the nicest and the best without dating it. And now I have an Independence t-shirt, not one that says 5-0, which now I feel some kind of way wearing it when it's 5-1. What I would do is I just want to have Happy Independence Bahamas, a couple of different ones of those, and I could rock it.
Anytime, yeah.
You see what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Because
Mhm.
and watch this, and here's what your family and friends say, girl, you so cheap. I know you making good money. And it ain't about making good money. It's about being responsible with the money that I'm making. And it's not putting myself in a position where I look good in the moment, only to find myself later on saying, girl, this car tire blew out and I can't afford to change the tire.
Yeah. So let's talk about how do we now make the shift? How do we get rid of the poverty mindset?
First and foremost, I would say there's something called a growth mindset, and then there's a fixed mindset. And if you a fixed mindset says that's just the way it is. Okay, I grew up on the wrong side of the fence. My family has never been good with money. Everybody, everybody know I don't like numbers. Hey man, listen, if I got it, I got. Hey, watch this. That's just who I am, right? That's a fixed mindset. A growth mindset says, okay, it don't have to be this way, and I can learn and I can change. I would say it starts there. It's being able to say, I don't have to live like this.
Yeah.
And then what else shifts it is humility. Because I believe all of us have access to somebody who's doing well, who started where we were.
Mm.
Let me say it again. All of us have access to someone who's doing well, who started where we were. So you got to get humble though. And you got to get, I was talking to a colleague yesterday and I said, the top 10 new most influential people in my life are all 70 plus retired professionals, right? And I said they're living life to the fullest. One of them just became our president of our Rotary Club. He's turning 81 and is president of a Rotary Club. When I sit at the table, being that next year I'm turning 50 and I'm sitting at the table with guys who are 80 and still actively involved, was very financially responsible. I'm able to look at them and say, you know what? I have a small company. What should I be doing a little bit different to last and to thrive? What mistakes you made that you wish you had not have made? Looking at me from the outside, you see how I show up at the Rotary Club meeting. You see me in the city. You see me online. What advice would you give me, being somebody who has gone ahead of me and has succeeded and has done well? What would you say? Now let's bring it really home. Both of us grew up in the neighborhood where we went to the pump. But now you live in the West and I still live down the street from the pump. How about picking up the phone and says, hey man, boy, you've really done well for yourself. I didn't call to borrow anything. I'm simply calling to ask you. You know me. What 3 things I need to stop doing to get my life together? Let me tell you something. Watch this. Someone is watching you fail who is capable of helping you and they ain't saying nothing because you are not open for help.
Yeah. I want to speak to that about humility. I'll never forget. So I had gone back to grad school to pursue my MBA. I had already gotten a master's in film and television producing, which is my profession now, but I'd gone back to pursue an MBA. And I went really on faith because I knew I was like, Lord, I don't know where this money coming from, And so anyways, it was the end of the first semester. And the Holy Spirit told me, he said, just talk about, the fact that you're in school or whatever. Just share your story of what you're doing on Facebook. I said, Facebook, I don't tell people my business,
Yeah.
Right. I come from a middle class family, but this was something I was doing on my own, and I I'm not going to tell people that I struggle in or whatever.
Right.
And so anyhow, so I reluctantly I put something on Facebook, not begging, but just sort of talking about my story a bit. And I was really embarrassed, about the fact that I put that up. And within the hour, it was a young lady who, funny enough, she just sent me a friend request the day prior.
Okay.
The day I wasn't friends with her on Facebook before, but the day prior, I accepted her friend request. And so she messaged me on Facebook and she said, hey, I just saw your post on Facebook. Have you heard of this? And so she told me about this avenue that I could take to be able to pay for the rest of my schooling. And I went and I pursued it. And that's how I paid for my MBA degree. And had I sat there, I don't want people to know and what I deal with, I probably would have had to drop out of the program.
Yeah.
So that's humility is very important.
So much so. And like I said, somebody is watching you who's capable of helping you. I teach that. Somebody say, well, why don't they just help? Because sometimes they don't have the know-how. Like, they should use discernment. Boy, how many of us have done that in regards to our children? How many of us have done that with our health? How many of us have done that with the bad decisions we've made? Why we want to put that on someone else to have discernment to help us? No, why don't we just open our mouth and say, hold on, you're succeeding where I'm failing. What are you seeing that I need to make adjustment to? And then don't use no excuse, right? Yeah. So when she advised you, hey, what about taking this avenue? You'll be like, man, you mean to tell me I'm going to have to fill out a bunch of paperwork and I'm going to have to go make an appointment and they're going to may want to interview me? I don't do good with interviews. Come on. Decide to take on the challenge when the help arrives.
a couple of things that you mentioned that I think is critical in terms of making the mindset shift. You talked about the people that you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
The fact
Yeah.
that you're in the Rotary Club. So
Yeah.
talk a little bit about the environment and
Oh
how
man.
the
Oh man.
environment that you're in is
Oh man.
part of shifting the mindset.
Listen, when I was on Soldier, the group that I was around was they celebrated the fact that I would punch someone in the head for nothing. You know, I was the dude who walk in the club or in a restaurant. What you looking at? You like money, right? I moved from that environment. I moved from that environment to I joined Toastmasters first. Let me tell you how environment matters. When I joined Toastmasters, on my right was Chester Cooper. When I joined Toastmasters, was Fran and Wilson on my left. On that same in that same at the table of Toastmasters was Marlon Johnson. I mean, just some really distinguished Bahamian, very high credible guys. I was the least among them. As a matter of fact, I was so intimidated being in the room because all of these were college graduates, guys who were killing it in their own right at the time, doing their thing. And I showed up as the guy from the streets, riding my bike to the first few Toastmasters meeting and sitting next to these guys, and the environment started to help bring about a shift. Fast forward to now, I then realized, hold on, environment really does matter. And so I joined the Rotary Club, and I'm like, okay, wow, everybody in here is entrepreneurs. Everybody in here is financially stable. Everybody in here is not intimidated by me having a business, having multiple streams of income. Everybody in here has made some mistakes prior to getting their successful position in life. I can learn from these guys. And that's the reason why I pride myself on hanging around with people that are productive, highly engaged individuals who are 80 and functioning. The reason why we have a mentality back home. Once you start hitting about 50, people say, well, I'm almost winding down now. Winding
Winding
down?
down. Yeah.
Yeah, winding down at 50, at 60, when you have a table full of highly engaged, productive individuals who are 80, and the guy just became president at 81. I'm like, hats off to you, sir. Right? Because now me, who was turning 49, I'm inspired. And that's really what it's about. The environment inspires, the environment motivates. If you enter the room right, though, because there are some people who go in the room with insecurities and certain level of intimidation, and then they got the competitive spirit, you see? And so now you're trying to level up when you shouldn't be leveling up. You should be learning. Okay?
Yeah.
I just was elected in city council, and two mayors have decided to mentor me, right? And they say, so what are your thoughts? I say, I don't have any thoughts when I'm sitting at the table with you guys. I'm a student. They say, well, we want to know what you think. I don't have, tell me what I should be thinking. Tell me how I should look at these different views. Tell me how I should see 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the road. I'm not trying to come in as the young buck talking about, boom, I've arrived, step aside now. No, I want to learn how to last for the long haul because you guys are 80 strong and still are gatekeepers in this city and making a big difference in the nation.
Hmm. You mentioned something about how you said it's also how you enter in the room.
Yeah,
I want you to talk about the impact of underestimating yourself and
yeah,
your abilities and who you are and how that contributes to
yeah.
you achieving, even with the topic of money sense, financial
Yeah.
success.
Just remember, if you make it in the room, celebrate the fact you're in the room. Don't beat yourself up because you ain't got the comparison suit. Don't beat yourself up because you didn't drive there like everybody else. Just celebrate the fact that you're in the room. That's first and foremost. Then choose to become a student in a room that my God, I ain't even supposed to be in this room. So I'm not in here trying to be equal. I'm here trying to learn because I'm in awe that I'm in the room. I'm going to use a biblical story. We talk very little about David playing the harp, but David was next. But David was given access by playing the harp in the room. You can't be king without ever having been in the room. And it's in the room over the years or over that timeline he was playing the harp. He could see how kings sit and how the demeanor and how there was so much to learn while David was playing the harp in the room. And so I tell people, years ago, I remember being an armor bearer for my pastor, Apostle Raymond Wells, is my spiritual father. And I can remember being the armor bearer, and he was like, just stand right in the corner. I was like, well, you all but to talk. He said, you could still stand right there. I'm still in the room. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, look at what they talk about. What's going on? And I had no clue that it was setting the stage for me to be who I am today. And so I would say, first and foremost, don't be intimidated by the fact that you're in the room. Choose to accept the fact that God has placed you in there for a reason. Now you need to learn what you need to learn. And then here's the deal. Don't compare yourself with those that are in the room, that have been in the room long before you. That's a big issue back home. We got that competitive spirit to where we try to level up and we start to say, well, because I'm new, they talking to me like this. Yeah, you new. And even if they're talking to you like that, try to ask yourself, what can I learn from this? It's all a teaching moment. And then last but not least, I would say, remember, when you do get in the room, it's not about getting in the room for today. It's about learning how to stay in the room. The Bible says your gift will make room for you. You can get in the room and never get right back because a moment gives you some attention, but healthy practice sustains the attention. Healthy practice sustains the attention. It's like the ASU gives you a moment. You ain't broke.
Yeah.
You got some money now, right? But healthy practice will keep you never being broke another day in your life.
There's something that you share that I came across in one of your videos on YouTube. You said the quality, and I had to write this down.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You said the quality of our lives
Yep.
depends on the quality of our thoughts.
Yep.
I want you to talk about what you mean by that. The quality of our lives depends on the quality of our thoughts.
I'm going to say it in the way that I would have probably heard it in E.P. Roberts, but still paid no attention. Heard it at C.H. Reeves, paid no attention. And heard it at R.M. Bailey, paid no attention to it. And that is garbage in, garbage out. Let me tell you something. The television programs you watch is programming you. The radio programs you listen to is programming you. I did an early morning run this morning, and I'm listening to a podcast to help program my mindset. The Bible says, as a man thinketh, so is he. What most people don't realize is it's harder to unlearn than to learn. So you have to be careful of what you're learning, because even when truth shows up, to unlearn is harder. And so as a coach, my biggest job is trying to help people to unlearn what they should have never learned. And it starts with getting your mind right. And so trying to renew your mind, the scripture talks about renewing your mind. And here's the deal. How I teach renew your mind, you have to renew your mind in regards to the area of your deficiency or the area of where you're failing the most. I know a lot of people who, well, I'm a believer now and I'm renewing my mind by reading my Bible every day. Guess what? That strengthens your faith. That doesn't necessarily strengthen your finances. It strengthens your faith, not your finances. It doesn't strengthen your fitness. It doesn't strengthen necessarily your family. It doesn't necessarily strengthen your enjoyment about life. What it does is strengthens your faith. And so I would say, what are you listening to about finances? Because if you're constantly watching reality TV and you're watching all of these reels on Instagram and on Facebook that's toxic and limiting and superficial, that's garbage in. So now what most people are doing, they just want to look good. My mother said something to me a few years ago, changed my life forever. She said, son, I had just bought a house. And when you buy a house, after that, they said, man, listen, now your credit has locked in the house. Now go crazy and get your car and go get them to furnish out the house. Don't worry about how you can pay for it because you don't worry about your credit after that. That's what poor-minded people think like here. And so I called my mom. I said, well, I know you're all coming and I just bought the house. I don't have much in it. As a matter of fact, the mattress was still on the ground, on the floor, no frame or nothing. She said, son, take your time and furnish them rooms out one at a time. She says, be stronger than you look. That's the quote I got from her. Be stronger than you look. Let me tell you something. We came into that neighborhood when I bought that house with my auction car and my mattress on the floor. And 5 years later, I was the president of the homeowners association in that neighborhood, and had the best kept yard, and had 3 cars in the driveway, all paid for. And they thought I was dealing some kind of drugs or something like that. But I came in limited, but I came in with this growth mindset that over time I'm going to be healthy and I'm going to be financially responsible. I've been in this country for 24 years. I've never written back home to ask somebody to say, help a brother out, right? Because I chose to break free from a lot of limited position. For these 5 years being in this country, I told people, I don't do Christmas gifts. They said, what do you mean? Everybody does Christmas gift. I can't afford it. I have a wife and a child. We're not doing Christmas exchange. Well, my God, you cheap pay, don't you have a job? Well, right now I can't afford it. I'm trying to be a responsible male, securing a home for my family, trying to make sure that we have nothing missing, lacking, or broken in regards to me being the financial responsible father, husband in this house. So that was a rule that broke me off. Then another one was holidays coming up. I don't do new clothes during the holidays. Not for the holidays. I do new clothes because I need new clothes, but not breaking the cycle. Breaking the cycle. So going back to your question, it's mindset. Mindset at its base is where most of our behaviors come from. And most people don't want to do the work to get down there. So you got to realize, why you are so caught up? Well, girl, I can't wear that same outfit for the church again. Oh my goodness, for Independence Day is coming up. I can be fresh from head to toe, right? But your car note's due. You know, in 6 weeks, your child going back to private school that you could barely afford, but yet you mismanaging the little income that's coming in and trying to go head over heel, looking good on independence, only to say, I so stressed out. And then you have a relationship with God, but your relationship with God is like a sugar daddy. You need God to deliver you because you have messed up so bad. You're saying, Father, Lord God, could you please help a sister out? I'm in a mess. What's this? I need a miracle. Mismanagement of my funds has caused me to need a miracle. Now, if you were a parent and your adult child came to your house, and you know that mismanagement of funds have put them in a financial hard place, how inclined would you to be to repeatedly provide what we will call a miracle?
I want to speak to this, and Lord, I hurt some feelings. Right now we're in the month of July, and so I know this is going online, so people are going to watch this or listen to this different times of the year. I want to speak to that family that's getting the T-shirts ready for the summer vacation. If you know school fee coming, and August, September is going to be here any day now. If you know that at the end of this vacation you're gonna have to be scrounging around and borrowing money to get the school fee and uniforms and all of that, but you going on a big splurge wherever it is that you're going on vacation, you may want to reconsider. I'm not saying that you should not, or you should be completely deprived of the joys of life. But like you said, these are decisions that we make that what did you say? You said you mismanage your funds and praying for a miracle.
Yep. Here's the deal. I've been saying this. I've done a few shows there back home. I come on pretty frequently, and I've been sharing this thought, and it's going against culture, but I'm really trying to help people out when it comes to financial stewardship. And that is, especially during the back to school season, we have a lot of people who won't humble themselves and says, you know what? You have a son who was in the sixth grade at this school. I have a son who was about to go into sixth grade, but your son is changing school completely. Hey girl, my son is but the same size as your boy got. What you do with them old uniform? Can I give you a little something for them, or would you bless me with them? Because I'm not buying this boy no full new set of clothes. A poverty mindset would have it, which we have as a culture, on the first day of school, everybody got to be wearing something new. When if you can't afford that, you shouldn't be trying to do that. Let me say it again. If you can't afford that, you shouldn't be doing it. Well, I don't want my child to feel bad. Then here's what you need to be teaching your child. You need to teach your child that he or she is better than new clothes. New clothes don't make you.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
A certain
Yeah.
brand don't make you. Poverty mindset would have you to believe that if I'm wearing a line belt or a Levi pants, or if I'm wearing some Clark shoes or some Nike, whatever. And so we have this behavior that is permeated throughout all of the different areas where people in the poorest of areas, you see their children coming out the first day and first week of school, and you're like, wow, nice. I mean, it's impressive. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, it's impressive. But then when you see how they came about that, you know it's not healthy. But not only it's not healthy, it's not sustainable. Because
Right.
now you have to keep this up. You have to keep this up. And if you can't keep this up, Houston, we got a problem. And so I'm
Yeah.
saying to Bahamians, get to the point you teach your children, hey, there's a roof over our head that's paid for. We maintaining, we do family vacation, but we're going to do it responsibly. Let me tell you something. Put them school clothes. We're going to put them in the cleaners. When school's out, we're going to get you a couple of your cousin's shirts who go to them schools where you went and make sure they get altered and so forth, because we cutting costs. We cutting
Mm-hmm.
costs, and you're going to look good. And you're going to be smart, and more than likely you'll become the most successful of the students, because you weren't built under the common unhealthy practice of what culture is feeding.
I didn't realize until this episode, episode 3, how much culture influences the way we view money and the way we manage our finances. Culture has many of us buying things we can't afford and things we can afford but don't need. It also has many of us missing opportunities that could set us up for financial success. There's a proverb that says, where there's no vision, the people perish. This is why it's so important to have a plan for achieving financial success. Without a plan, we'll succumb to the unhealthy habits of a culture plagued by a poverty mindset. How does one, when you shift, okay, so we've shifted the mindset now to where it's now the complete opposite, where we believe we can do this. We're not poor, we're not
Yeah,
struggling. We
yeah.
this is just only a matter of time. How does one avoid taking it to the extreme, right? Where they are making financial decisions that don't align with where they're at currently. You want to stay positive,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You want to stay
Hmm.
positive and keep a
Yeah,
positive mindset, but you also have to be grounded in
yeah,
reality at the same
yeah.
time. How does one avoid that?
This is my favorite word when it comes to my company and my business with effective living, and it's called management. Management. It's management. It's all management. It's. I have a child, and I got 10 more years of schooling, and or he or she's going to go off to college, or I'm trying to move out of this apartment and get a house, or go get a duplex and live in one and rent one, or I want to pay off my car and be able to do a family vacation once a year. It's all management. It's all time management. It's all resource management. It's all management in regards to your talent and your gifts. It's all management. So personal assessment is a critical deal. How poor, where am I? That's what the assessment does. Where am I? How am I really doing? Do I have an emergency fund? God, am I living paycheck to paycheck? And what am I doing on a daily basis that don't need to be done? Like, I need to stop. I need to cut out. Like, for me, I try my best. I'm like, hey, listen, I have a coaching client, a good friend of mine. She's a financial planner. She helps a lot of people out. And one of the things she teaches is no spend days. She has
No
no
spend
spend.
days.
It's no spend days. And so she got these 3 or 4 days that's no spend. So that means on her spend days, she's doing budgeting and she's doing, you see what I'm saying? Planning properly, because somebody said, well, what are you doing, girl? We going for lunch today. Well, I brought my lunch because this is a no spend day. Because what happens is some people don't realize they get in the habit of just swiping the card. They just get in the habit of just getting in the wallet. And without realizing no spend days. Another healthy practice when we talk about management, let's talk about, you go to church and they want you to give, but you got to now, you tithe. So you put that tithe aside. And I have a good friend who's a professional back home. He said he and his wife sit down, and from a management standpoint, high professional back home, he says what they do is they put an allocation of offerings per month. So they don't leave it open, because some churches are poorly managed when it comes to money. And so because they're poorly managed, what they do is they could throw off your financial position, because they start asking you for more because they need it, because they ain't managed. So in other words, this friend of mine, he says he and his wife, what they've done is, hey, listen, this month, this is what we give our tithe, and this is what we give as offering. And he said, I don't care what they got 50 other meetings that they're talking about money. He says, we just look at each other and just hold our hands and pray, Lord, help us get through this service. Because we're not going over that. That's called boundaries, financial
Right.
boundaries. And I'm saying, you got family members, because they know you're doing financially well. They're constantly reaching out to you, trying to ask you, and you could say, okay, if I'm making this kind of money, I want to be a blessing to my family. In the event that somebody has an incident or an accident, that my good friend who's in the Bahamas, he said they have a generosity allowance put aside, meaning where they could just be a blessing. And so if you call him at the wrong time, he said, well, we maxed out on our generosity giving.
Mm, mm.
We maxed out. You can ask, if you still have the need next month, you can ask us, and I'm more than likely give you that $100, that $200. But in other words, he's still living under budget, still living responsibly in managing their affairs. That's management. And so
Yeah.
I'm saying that's work, though. And most people are lazy. Most people don't want to take responsibility for their life. What they want is, they want a lottery winning moment, or they want God's divine involvement of the, watch this, what is the wealth of the wicked is stored up for the righteous. They just want what they want a financial floodgate of financial resources and income come to them, but they don't want to learn how to manage it still. So you
Yeah.
end up seeing people who actually really, you see their numbers for what comes through them within a
Oh.
year. They're making money. I'm talking back home, but
Mm-hmm.
because they're driving what they shouldn't afford, they built what they should not have. They're traveling as much as what they, and the amount of things that they're doing from the external standpoint, they're just like the person who is working at Wendy's and making the bare minimum.
Yeah. Yeah. I am the CEO of my life.
Yeah.
Explain what you mean by that.
I'm responsible for how I'm doing. If my company is bankrupt, I have to take responsibility for that. If my company is thriving, financially stable, I'm responsible for that. I didn't get that all along. And I'm not telling you I have this all stuff all mastered, but I live every day to try to align my life up with my message. And so, as the CEO of my life, guess what I should do? Annual audits,
Mm.
right? Quarterly audits. So here's the deal. What great companies do, they have moments where they have cutbacks. What are some of those cutbacks are for? For the sustainability of the healthy company over the long period of time. So
Mm-hmm.
you could say the next 3 years we ain't traveling. Two of my rental properties got damaged. They cut my days in half. And you know what I'm saying? My spouse got laid off. So the next 3 years, we're going to rebuild. Somebody said, but y'all got a lot. I didn't say we don't have a lot. As the CEO of my life, I have to pull back. If I had 3 properties and my significant other got laid off, we're going to have to make some cutback. Oh, girl, you should still live like you've always lived. You only live once. And then what's the person who's living like that ends up in a financial hardship. And you say, how is it that that person have a GoFundMe when I thought they was up there in society? Is because they really weren't doing as well as they should. And that's those companies that are shell companies that look like it got it going on, only to
Mm-hmm.
find that the first issue that comes, they file
Yeah.
bankruptcy. The
Yeah.
first issue that comes, they fold. And so a lot of people are built that way. And so I love this platform that you have, and I love the service you're providing, because I believe content like this is going to help everybody that's watching. You are the CEO of your life. Stop and have a period where you say a freeze, spending freeze. You know what I'm saying? In other words, we only paying the essentials. Somebody said, girl, we're going for fried chicken and a snack. Well, I'll go if you buy it because I'm on a spending freeze. Girl, you can afford it. I didn't say I can't afford it. I'm saying I'm trying not to continue to dig this hole that I see. Because if you're a good CEO, you could see what's coming and you're setting yourself up not to have hardship down the road.
Mm-hmm. Our listeners and viewers, we're going to be covering a lot of different topics.
Yeah.
How do we apply, what we learn here on the show,
Yeah.
to live effectively? How should they be applied for effective living?
Excellent question. I love the number system. In my office, I have a dry erase board, and I have a number I have like a step ladder, and I have 1 to 10. And when it comes to finances, I would say, where am I on a scale to 1 to 10? And let's just say you are at a 2, 10 being phenomenal, and 2 being, boy, right at the bottom. Then what I would do is I would be honest with myself and say that's where I am. Wherever you are, you don't have no emergency fund, you're definitely below 5. Okay, don't even try to put yourself up. When I make good money, if you ain't got no emergency fund, you're below 5. You're in a very it's a unique position. But what I would say is listen to what we just shared. Take a notepad and write down the top 10 things that are really relatable to you. And then what I want you to do is put them in order of importance. And you says, and practicality, meaning I could start here. I can go there. I can go there. And so what I teach my clients is the step-by-step process to get them to their promised land. So by December, you could have an emergency fund. You just is going to have to cut back on some major stuff. Or you may have to have a side hustle where whenever money comes from the side hustle, you put it all in there to help establish an emergency fund. So I would say establish that list, what you heard from us today that really spoke to you. Don't just let it be in your ears. Write it down. Make it visible. Put it on your computer or your tablet. Put it on your mirror. And then remind yourself, over the next 6 months, I'm going to work on this stuff. I'm gonna start being in better environments. I'm gonna have no spend days. I'm gonna get humble, and I'm gonna ask people who actually are doing better than me to help me. I'm gonna stop making excuses. I'm gonna stop living above my means. I'm going to have a growth mindset and remind myself no one is better than me. And that don't mean I need to dress like everyone else. That means I need to live up to the idea that I can have it too. I can move too. I can purchase that too eventually if I would just break certain habits starting from the mindset.
Mm-hmm. Before we go, I want you to talk a little bit about your book.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Tell us what we can glean from it. Tell
Yep.
us where we can buy it.
Yep.
Effective Living, it's called, right?
Yeah, Effective Living. It's on Audible. I'm was so happy to be able to have it on Audible, placed there earlier this year. But paperback, I'm coming home in a few weeks, and
Okay.
I'll be speaking at Living Waters last Sunday in August.
I
And
will be there.
yeah, come on. I'll be at Living Waters speaking last Sunday, and I'll be signing my books. I'll be bringing books, and so we'd love to sign a copy. I don't have any in bookstores there on the island, but you can go to Amazon, you can go to my website. But one of the ways you can do is, hey, show up and say, Miller, I watched this interview. It was so awesome. I wanted to come to the service, and I wanted to get my signed copy, and let's do that together.
When is the service? Do you
It's
have
the
the
la-
exact date?
it's the last Sunday in August, which is August 25th. So I'm at Living Waters on August 25th.
Good, good. So this would have already been released. So that's very good. Very good. We're almost at the end of the episode, and I want to end the show with some parting words from Coach Ricardo. So I'll use this opportunity now to remind you to subscribe to the Money Sense with Sheandra YouTube channel and to follow Money Sense with Sheandra on social media if you haven't already. For more information on the show or to get in touch, visit my website, www.moneysensewithsheandra.com. If you plan on visiting Living Waters Church here in Nassau on August 25th to hear Coach Ricardo preach and to get a copy of his book, Effective Living, let me know so that we can go together. Coming up next, final words from Coach Ricardo.
I share a lot of practical stuff because I learned from a practical standpoint. It's not hard to change your life. You just got to be willing to do the work. Okay. And please note that if Ricardo can do it, you can do it too. If the other guy or the other girl that you admire and respect can do it, you can do it too. And that means you just simply got to lean in at a level that you have never leaned in before. There's a common statement that says, if you keep doing what you've been doing, you're going to keep getting what you've been getting. So choose to do something different, lean into the points that we shared today, and then watch your life change for the better. Is it going to be easy? No. Because if it was easy, everybody would have what they desire. But it's possible. And that's what you got to remind yourself. It is possible. So go after what God has for you.